Welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into a scandal in Antigua that kicked off with, well, honestly, a bizarre image. We're talking about these really conspicuous high-end SUVs.
Ford Broncos, specifically.
Right, Broncos. Supposedly bought for undercover police work, but then just found parked right out in the open outside a police station.
Yeah, you really couldn't pick a less undercover vehicle if you tried, could you? The irony is just thick.
It really is.
But that almost ridiculous sighting, it was really just the spark, wasn't it, for what people are now calling Vehicle Gate?
That's the name it's got.
And our mission today is to really take the source material we have and unpack the true scope of this. It's a multi-million-dollar government procurement scandal, and it goes deep.
And what's pretty unique here for you listening is that most of what we actually know about this whole breakdown, the sheer number of vehicles, the procedures just ignored the political side of it.
Conflicts of interest.
Exactly. It's coming straight from public statements made by the Prime Minister himself, either talking in Parliament or on his own radio show.
Which is quite something. It's this remarkable political situation, really. We're looking at a case study here in governance, aren't we? What happens when the checks and balances just, fail right at the top in a small country? Mm-hmm. And you've got the leader essentially becoming the main source, the main whistleblower against his own government's actions. It's a critical lesson, I think, in how these systems can kind of buckle under concentrated power. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start with just how big this was, the scale, and how the procedures basically fell apart.
Yeah, the numbers first, because they're confusing right from the start.
Totally. The initial reports, you see figures like 200 vehicles, then maybe 300. Some sources even mention 350.
And that lack of clarity, the fact that even the government seemingly can't pin down the exact number.
That's got to be the first massive red flag.
Yeah.
Right? It just screams that accountability was, missing from the very beginning.
Completely. Mm. But it's not just the sheer volume, is it? The critical thing the sources point to is how this money was spent. The whole process for how the government is supposed to buy things, it just completely broke down.
Yeah. The sources list some really key procurement violations. And it looks systemic, not just one or two mistakes.
Exactly. And the big one, the one that jumps out, is who got bypassed. Deliberately, it seems.
Right. These deals completely sidestepped two ministries that are absolutely crucial. First, the Ministry of Finance. They're supposed to sign off on big spends like this.
Absolutely critical role.
And second, the Ministry of Public Works, which, as the sources tell us, is meant to be the central hub, the gatekeeper for all government purchasing.
And that's key, isn't it? The whole reason you centralize procurement and public works is to control costs, get bulk discounts, and, crucially, prevent exactly this kind of leakage money slipping out through lots of decentralized deals. Mm. When that gatekeeper is ignored, the system just hemorrhages cash. It's designed to fail if you do that.
And then there's another layer to this procedural failure. The dollar amount.
Ah, yes, the threshold.
Standard procedure, apparently, says any single vehicle costing over $80,000 needs extra checks, a specific vetting process. $80,000.
Which, let's be clear, in a small island economy, that's a huge sum for one vehicle. It's not like buying paper clips.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So how does that level of oversight just disappear? Not once, but potentially hundreds of times.
It really forces you to ask that hard question, doesn't it? Was this just sort of administrative incompetence, people not knowing the rules? Or was it, a deliberate move to bypass the rules, to keep these deals out of the usual scrutiny?
And this is where it gets intensely political, because the ministries that should have been involved, the ones whose authority was ignored, they're led by a husband and wife.
That's the core of it. The Minister of Finance is the Prime Minister, Gaston Browne.
And the Minister of Public Works and Transport, that's the Prime Minister's wife, Maria Browne.
So you have this incredible concentration of power, which in a small state like Antigua becomes really, really acute. The ultimate authority, and therefore you'd think the ultimate responsibility, rests within this family unit holding these key cabinet posts. Mm-hmm. That relationship is right at the center of the conflict of interest questions swirling around this whole Vehicle Gate scandal.
And Minister Maria Browne's response, her public statement, it's quite something. She took to Facebook.
Right. Not a formal press conference, but Facebook.
And it wasn't an apology. Not at all. It was a very aggressive defense. She basically framed the whole situation not as, her ministry failing in its oversight role,
but as her being the hero.
Pretty much. She said she was fixing a decades-old loophole, that she was doing a good deed for the people.
It's quite a narrative spin. Shifting blame, accusing the opposition of trying to sully her good name, using it politically.
And what's striking, as the sources point out, is what's missing. There's no apology.
Yeah.
No acceptance of responsibility, really, for these improper deals happening under her ministry's watch.
No. It's all deflection and counterattack, framing it as a political hit job rather than a governance failure within her remit.
And the government, more broadly, is leaning into that deflection angle, too, aren't they?
Right.
Trying to add historical context.
Yeah, they're pushing this narrative that, well, this kind of practice, this lax approach, it predates 2014, which is when the current PM Browne took office.
So the implication is, hey, the previous government, the UPP, they were doing similar things, maybe benefiting from these loose arrangements, too.
Exactly. It's a classic political tactic. Try to dilute the blame by spreading it around, suggesting everyone does it.
Has the opposition responded to that?
Oh, yes. The opposition leader, Jamal Pringle, has come out very strongly denying any involvement or benefit from anything like this, even though there have been some, let's say, targeted leaks appearing in pro-government media suggesting otherwise.
So the political fight is heating up.
Absolutely intense. And the opposition isn't just denying, they're demanding external oversight. They see this as a major failure needing independent eyes.
Okay, so that leads us neatly into the next part. These clashing ideas about how to fix this mess, how to find a resolution.
Right, because you've got two very different paths being proposed. The government's approach, led by the Prime Minister.
They're pushing hard for restitution.
Restitution, yes. Over launching a full-blown legal investigation, which they argue would be slow, very expensive,
And politically damaging.
and hugely damaging, yes. Especially in a small society, they argue it causes significant harm and reputational damage. So the strategy seems to be, if people acted wrongly, maybe fraudulently,
Give the money back.
pay it back, agree to restitution, and the implication is sort of all will be forgiven, or at least prosecution will be avoided.
It's essentially trading legal accountability for getting the cash back quickly.
That seems to be the core calculation, a strategic choice.
Yeah.
And there are signs it's yielding results, at least financially.
How so?
Well, there are reports that one of the main car dealers caught up in this is already making arrangements to pay back a significant chunk of money.
How much are we talking?
The figure being mentioned, though it's rumor at this stage, is around $10 million from just one dealer.
Wow. Okay, if one dealer is potentially paying back $10 million, that makes the initial government estimate of the total loss being around $15 million look,
Yeah.
well, frankly, unbelievable.
It does seem incredibly low in that context, doesn't it? It suggests the real scale of the leakage could be far, far higher, but it also validates the government's restitution strategy in a way it confirms significant money was improperly handled and can potentially be recovered.
And the Prime Minister, to be fair, seems to be moving quite quickly on several fronts now.
He is. He's reported that about 30 vehicles have already been returned to the dealers.
Okay.
An internal audit is apparently underway, and there have been personnel changes, pretty significant ones.
Like what?
The controller of customs was forced to resign. The PM stated publicly he'd lost confidence in them, and some permanent secretaries involved have been shuffled around to different posts.
And then there's the auction plan.
Ah, yes, the public auction. Selling off the government vehicles that haven't been assigned to anyone.
Which includes some of these high-end SUVs, presumably.
You'd have to assume so. And apparently people are joking about waiting for the auction date to smag a cheap Bronco.
The irony is just inescapable, isn't it? The very symbol of this massive government waste potentially being sold off cheap to the public.
It's politically quite clever in a way, turning a negative into a potential visible public benefit. But it's definitely not enough for the opposition.
No, they want more than an internal audit and returned vehicles.
Much more. They're demanding a full, independent inquiry. Their argument is pretty straightforward. How can the Prime Minister's administration, which includes his wife's ministry at the center of this, conduct a credible investigation?
They're basically saying the PM and his wife would be investigating themselves.
That's the charge. They want outside investigators, someone completely detached from the government, to dig into what happened.
Okay, this is where it gets really crucial, I think, because we need to shift focus from the political back and forth to what this actually means for ordinary people in Antigua, the real stakes.
Absolutely. Because the numbers involved are just potentially devastating for a small island nation. We mentioned the initial $15 million loss estimate, but some sources are hinting it could be way higher.
How high?
Possibly closer to $50 million. $50 million.
That's
For
staggering.
a small island developing state, $50 million isn't just a line item in a budget. It's a massive chunk of potential investment gone. It represents roads not fixed, hospitals under-resourced, schools needing upgrades.
And citizens see that connection, don't they? They're angry.
Understandably furious. Because they see this, what looks like extravagance and waste, happening while basic essential services are crying out for funding.
So they link those Broncos directly to the potholes on their street.
Exactly. They ask, why are we spending hundreds of thousands on fancy SUVs we don't need when the road network is falling apart, when healthcare needs investment, when schools need resources? It makes that initial bizarre sighting incredibly potent politically.
And this has real political consequences for the governing party, the Labour Party.
Huge consequences. Reports suggest even their own core supporters are feeling, hurt and embarrassed by this whole affair.
It might undermine trust.
Deeply. And political watchers are saying quite openly that how the government navigates this now, whether they can convince people they've really tackled it, achieved real accountability, recovered the money,
It could decide the next election.
it may very well determine the outcome of the next election. That's the assessment. The stakes are that high.
Which explains why the government is making such a point about this restitution fund.
Precisely. They're trying to repair the damage by promising that any money recovered won't just disappear back into government coffers. They want to set up a specific fund so taxpayers can actually see tangibly, okay, the money paid back by the dealers is going directly into fixing this road or upgrading that clinic.
Trying to plug the hole in the dam, politically speaking.
It's damage control, absolutely, trying to show direct benefit from the cleanup. But public sentiment is still very cautious.
The people aren't convinced yet.
Well, while some might appreciate getting some money back quickly through restitution, many are taking a wait-and-see attitude. There's skepticism about whether there will be genuine accountability for those responsible, especially at higher levels. Overall, you'd have to say the public is just not happy about this fundamental breakdown in governance.
So when you boil it all down, what's the core tension here? What does this Vehicle-Gate scandal really tell us?
I think the central conflict isn't just about the missing millions, is it? It's really a clash between two competing priorities: speed versus legitimacy, damage control versus deep reform.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, on one side, you have the government's approach. It seems focused on rapid, almost transactional correction, get the cash back fast, minimize the political bleeding, maybe forgive some wrongdoing in the process to achieve that speed and avoid a messy, drawn-out legal fight. It's about immediate restitution and moving on.
Then the other side.
The other side, pushed by the opposition and parts of civil society, is saying, hold on. They argue that without a proper, slow, maybe costly, but independent investigation, you can't rebuild public trust. You can't guarantee this won't happen again. They believe true accountability, even if it's painful and implicates powerful people, is essential for long-term legitimacy.
So it really comes down to this fundamental question. When you're facing a governance disaster of this scale, what serves the country better in the long run?
Exactly. Is it better to accept a quick fix, get the money back now, even if it means accountability is perhaps incomplete? Or do you demand the slow, potentially very damaging independent process needed to truly restore faith in the system, even if it means less money recovered or takes years? That's the dilemma Antigua faces. Is justice delayed through a proper inquiry better than justice potentially avoided altogether in exchange for a faster financial payout?